God really is closer to us than we've ever thought or imagined. He's like the air we breathe. Every priest only has one homily. But the one homily of my life is really that God is closer to us than we've ever thought or imagined. God is always speaking to us in the ordinary, humdrum events, in the nitty-gritty. It's in the mundane that we find the marvelous. I preach parish missions. And when you think that you have captured God in a verse, in a phrase, in an image, the minute you think you have captured God, that's the very minute your word, your picture, or your verse betrays you. Because nothing can contain the living God. I write books. I'm also the co-host of Spirit and Life on Relevant Radio. Hi, y'all. What's going on? I'm Franciscan Father Albert Haase down in Crowley, Texas.
And I'm Ursuline Sister Bridget Haase here in Boston, Massachusetts.
I can't believe it, but my oldest sister is a sister.
And I can't believe that my baby brother is a Texan father. Welcome to Spirit and Life.
I'm first and foremost a Franciscan friar. That's my DNA. I still remember right after I was ordained, my mother pulled me aside. It was during a reception. And she said, "Sugar Pie, I knew you were going to always be a priest." And I looked at her and I said, "Mom," I said, "how on earth did you know I was going to be a priest?" She said, "Because you were born on Holy Thursday morning, 1955. And she said, you came out of my womb and the doctor slapped your bare bottom. You gasped and then you screamed, 'Let us begin in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.'" So she said, "I knew from that moment you were going to be a priest." The difference between Mary of Nazareth and Albert Haase, Mary's eyes were open. She was wide awake, and she was always looking out for the God who dwells in heaven coming down here to earth. Her eyes were wide open. We so oftentimes think that God is up there and I'm down here, and that somehow or another we're disconnected from God. I always like to tell people, on an automobile, when you look at the passenger side rear view mirror, there's those words at the bottom, which I think is a great spiritual axiom. It says, objects in mirror are closer than they actually appear. And I always like to think, I just cross off the word objects and put God. God is actually closer to us than God appears. It's in the present moment that God speaks to us. And if we could only abandon ourselves to that, if we could only respond to the unmet need or the required duty of the present moment, we get a little bit closer to holiness. Keep your eyes open. Always be attentive. Because God is constantly coming into our lives, each and every way. He's the God of surprise and disguise. And He's got a bad habit of always showing up at inconvenient times. I always love to tell people, listen to your life, because your life is the megaphone through which God is trying to communicate to you. My father committed suicide when I was 13 years old, and I oftentimes preach about my father's suicide. And when I can get somebody who's been left behind by suicide who think that their life has come to an end, and I tell them how God has transformed that into one of the greatest graces in my life, they all of a sudden find hope to continue on. And so it's almost like my father's suicide. My father now is giving life to other people through me. It's like his life, his death is redemptive because other people now are seeing hope and they're finding light at the end of a tunnel. And that if you can just give them a little bit of the glimmer of that life that Jesus says he came to give us and to have in abundance, and that's part of what hope does for us. And so to be able to be an instrument to do that is extraordinarily satisfying, and it's a great privilege.